来到 Mandarin Monkey 广播时间。
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Mandarin Monkey Podcast, episode 174.
第174集。今天呢，我们很荣幸邀请到一位国际著名的语言学家以及教育家龙飞虎先生来到我们的广播，欢迎。
你好，你好。
And for those of you who didn't follow that, we have today a renowned, can I say renowned? Psychologist, linguist, educator, and author, 对不对？
作家
Author and just generally eclectic, yes.
Generally eclectic, Mr. Christopher Lonsdale. Welcome, sir.
对啊
Thank you.
How are you feeling today?
很好，今天天气挺好，昨晚睡得挺好了。
Really? It's really cold here.
哎，你住在哪里现在？
我现在在马来西亚。
马来西亚。
Okay.
马来西亚天气是很冷还是很舒服？对您来说？
对很多西方来的人，马来西亚应该是太炎热了。
太热了。
对我来说刚刚好。我现在在槟城，那个温度26度到30，最高应该是31、2度了吧？
哦，现在马来西亚这么热。
Wow.
它是热带的吗？
因为我们台湾好冷哦。
You can see the difference because you're wearing a t-shirt. I've got like 4 jumpers on.
Well, I had to put on the t-shirt. In order to be suitable for this podcast.
Just to be decent. Okay, fair enough.
谢谢。对啊，今天台湾真的是非常的冷。
你在台北是不是啊？
我们在台湾台中。
哦，在台中啊。
对，在中部的地方。您来过台湾吗？
我来过。
您到哪个地方玩？
我去了台中，我在台北，是不是香山？
象山。
对，我香山都待过了。我去过台湾很多次了。我90年代都去了，哇，应该起码5次6次了。
来旅游吗？
有看朋友，也有做事儿，都有。
都有。
都有。所以对台湾比较熟悉，但是近10年没去过了。
为什么？太远？
不是远的问题，就是时间安排的问题吧。
时间
time.
对啊。
It's always, it's like you get busy, you've got projects,
当然
you have to get stuff done, and travel tends to take great chunks out of your year, actually.
Let's talk about getting things done. What are you getting done?
What am I getting done?
What's on your plate at the moment?
What's on my plate at the moment? Revolution.
这是一个很大的
Wait a minute.
很大的转变。
Okay. Language revolution, 对不对？
那个目前就是我算是20年做了一大堆的 webinars， 然后呢，功夫英语我们的那个叫中国人英语的那个移动课程，也移动学习系统，正在准备有 in-app purchasing， 所以。
Right.
这不是我们想做的，但是我们很多年不需要，因为跟苹果有个特殊的 deal. So, but we had this really good deal with Apple. We didn't actually have to do an app purchasing, and now they're putting the screws on. So we have to put in-app purchasing in as a condition of remaining on the App Store.
Yeah. They can make things rather difficult. We have an app out too, and the Android's good, but Apple are making it slightly more challenging to.
因为太多人要跟他们申请这些。
对。
应用程式的权利，所以我们太小了。
Maybe
他们就觉得
No, their process, to be fair, their process is pretty clear. Over the last 10 years, they've gone from feeling their way to having some sort of rules in place that on balance, they do their best to be fair. I don't actually have any complaints about that. We were able to get things done that big companies with lots of money couldn't get done. It's a function, I think, of respect and trying to understand where they're coming from and if it makes sense to fit in with that. So
your app, So, your course as well, because this is Kung Fu English, right?
Exactly, yes.
And do you have like a new course out, or is this sort of the same method you were talking about in your TED Talk?
Okay. The TED Talk was a culmination of both my book, The Third Year,
right.
You Can Learn Any Language, followed by taking those ideas and building them into the first ever mobile learning system on a phone. So basically we came out with Kung Fu English in 2010. We were the number one educational app on the App Store in China in 2010. We were number 4 of all apps.
Right.
So, but we were limited in what we could do because the technology wasn't there. Just 基本上刚刚出来那个 iOS 是非常的简单，你什么都没法做的。
Right.
So all we could do was playlists, basically.
Right.
So
ahead of the curve.
We put in, we put in our rhythmic English music. We put in our face phonics. We took the third year. We chucked it out into lexical units, all with audio, and that was the course basically. 2016, we started to do a complete rebuild of the system.
Okay.
Because the software, essentially the OS allows lots more flexibility in what you can do. You can actually code interactivity and stuff now. So,
nice.
So from 2016 until December 2017, we were completely rebuilding it. So that was 2 years of a massive amount of time investment.
Right, of course. Yeah.
And then in 2018, 2019 was dealing with the fact that, you come out with something which is as complex as what we had, you end up having to do a lot of catch up and bug fixing and stuff. So we set up an IT team in the Philippines. We have set up a customer service center in Penang, in Malaysia.
Okay.
So we have a team in China. We have the head office is in Hong Kong. So we're a multinational company now of about 30 people.
Nice. So, and your target audience would be to teach, obviously, Kung Fu English. You'd be teaching English to
Chinese
Zhongwen
people,
speakers,
yes.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
哇，所以我才说编码师啊，这些 developers 他们就像魔术师一样，把好多很多很复杂的东西，把它变成一个是真的一个产品，我觉得好神奇哦。
It's a lot more work than you think, isn't it?
真的
producing an app is a lot more work.
很辛苦。
我们做功夫英语新一代的，就是整个团队2年的功夫。
Yeah.
真的。
2年的功夫，对。
这是心血耶。
是真的不简单，而且你要考虑技术方面，你要考虑用户体验方面。
对呀，
你要考虑内容方面，你要考虑这些怎么整合，你要考虑那个效果的问题。
So it's right. It's not even just the app that you have to the content for the app as well, and everything else is a huge thing.
对啊，所以一个 app 就需要很多个人一起去完成，一个 baby 一样，很珍贵，很 treasure。
It is 非常，这是一个宝贝。真的，而且没完没了。
真的，对，就是你要一直不断的去 update， 不断的，你也不能就是说就是 keep。对，他们的 app， 他们的应用程式，像一个宝贝一样。
It's like a baby.
对啊。
Very true. We know your pain.
对，我们现在正在经历那段时间。对。很辛苦啦，
是啊。So
sorry, did you mention it? So it's finished now, Kung Fu English for... No, okay, it's never finished, but it's
never finished. It's never finished. We're building in new features that should have been there from the start, but you just can't do that amount of work in the amount of time you have available.
Sure.
So, and there are features I haven't even put into user stories yet. To further strengthen it. It's already really effective. If people follow it the way you need to do so, using the approach that I advocate, then people have been learning for 10 years, got nothing, and in about 20 days they're speaking English.
Okay.
Yeah. If people insist on rote learning the vocab and trying to analyze grammar and insisting that they speak like an adult in the first week, then they're going to have problems. But if you actually follow the science, that's a terrible phrase to use these days.
Yeah.
But if you understand how humans naturally learn English, and you follow that process, then you're going to be successful very, very quickly.
So let's talk about this, because this is so interesting to me. I'm fascinated by this. I've said this a number of times on the podcast before. Now, we have 3 young children. One of them's 4 years old. Her name's Kyrie. She speaks both Dongwon and Ingwen. Because she has input from both parents. I'm generally the obviously English speaker, and Yula's obviously the Dongwon. And Amma, she speaks Taiyu, so she mixes it in a bit. She gets Taiwanese in there occasionally.
3个语言的 input.
Right, now I am absolutely fascinated with the way she's grabbing language. I know lots of people say kids are sponges and this kind of stuff. What is the defining factor? What allows kids to absorb? I've had a thought that it's because they don't question grammar. They just accept what they're being told. They don't care about mistakes. They just say it. If it doesn't work, they'll try another way. If that doesn't work, they'll try another way. And you correct them. They'll say, okay, it's pen.
而且他们的错误，他们的 mistake 是一样的。来，他们会一直说，像 Kyrie 很喜欢说 give it for me.
Yeah, give it for me.
他会说 give it for me a lot. 然后大概1个月的时间，然后我们就一直说 It's give it to me, give it to me。那他会一直听到，就是爸爸妈妈在帮我纠正这个错误，然后到最后 in the end 他一定会改掉这个错误，所以他的错误是一直出现，然后我们一直不断的在帮他修正这个错误，他才会变成一个我应该要这么说。
其实不是 repetition 是大脑准备好了。It's brain readiness.
Okay.
Because what's happening is they got massive amount of information that they're trying to make sense of. So they will latch onto something that they can use that gets the communication outcome that they want. So give it for me gets what they want.
Okay.
All right. You understood it. You responded with an action that meets their requirement for closure. Okay. So you then tell them, if you correct them, they go, yeah, whatever.
Right.
Because they've got something that's working, and they will keep working. They will keep working with that until it's really, I won't say locked in, but it's very familiar, and it's a skill that they've mastered. And then they'll go, oh, hang on a minute, they're doing it a different way.
Right.
And at that point, they'll make a change. What you'll find is you'll correct, as you've said, and nothing happens, and then boom, one day it changes. But you might also find that they will start to make a change, and maybe 10% of the time they'll do it right, and the rest of the time they do it wrong.
So is this like emulation? Are they emulating as opposed to, so you're saying it's not repetition?
They're patterning in their brain.
Yeah.
And so the brain is creating an information network about all aspects of the language, including the sound, the muscles that are used to make the sound, the concepts that these sounds are referring to, because every single word in a language is a label for a physical thing, a quality of that thing. It could be a movement, it can be an internal state, right? Every single word is a label. And as soon as you understand that, then learning a language becomes easy. Monolinguals get stuck into this thing that the word is the thing.
Right.
But people who actually grow up multilingual, understand the word is not the thing. The word is simply a label. And English is a labeling system. Mandarin is a labeling system. 泰语就是闽南话吧，应该是吧？
对，闽南话。
对，闽南话 is a labeling system, right? So this is why in Malaysia, this is why we came to Malaysia, because the Chinese speakers here speak multiple languages, and they understand this intuitively in their bones. Whereas in mainland China, people don't actually get it.
Sure.
It's like they're monolinguals, like English people in London. Right?
Yes. All you need is English.
So for the kids, they will latch on to what is useful as fast as they can. And they will keep using it. My daughter, when she was very, very small, one day we're out walking, and there was a millipede. Mm-hmm. And she goes, oh, minipede. And then she stops and she goes, no, millipede. And she actually self-corrected. So somewhere along the way, she had picked up the correct pronunciation.
But not from you?
I don't know where she got it.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. But this is what happens. So they're hearing it from lots of different people. It could have been a cartoon. Who knows?
对，也是
Right? And they sort of store it, but they're not ready for it. And then one day there's an opportunity to use it. And if that information is available, then they will actually self-correct.
Right. And this is is this a similar method that you would suggest adults adopt?
Yeah, you've absolutely got to understand that you are a baby in the new language.
当然
你一定要像一个宝宝去学，比包括大量的听自己听不懂的东西了。
对呀，这就是很多的那个textbook， 很多的课本，在不管是中文还是英文，他们永远都是先教你怎么 greet people， 就是教你最简单的一个句型去用这个语言，所以很多人都会觉得why do I need to learn？这是一颗苹果 all the time， 或者这是一只狗 all the time， 他们就是没有
It's not relevant to you.
对，就是会觉得这
Exactly
跟我没有关系，为什么我要学这个？但是你就是需要从最简单的的一个语言的形态去认识这个语言是怎么结构的。
Greetings 不是最简单的。
真的吗？我们的 always 在台湾的课本永远第一课就是 Nice to meet you. How are you? I'm fine, thank you. 这样子。
OK，
对，
你应该学的第一句话，如果你是成年人，就是中文这个怎么说
Yeah, that's true.
How do you say this in Chinese?
Well, I don't
最
understand.
实用的，like is the most useful one.
我要喝水。
或如果你是英国人，啤酒。
我要喝啤酒，很重要。
It's going to be beer for English people, right?
Not Guinness.
No, not Guinness. No, not quite Guinness. No.
Yeah, I want Guinness.
I used to like Guinness. Yeah.
然后在台湾，我要袋子。
Oh yeah, 我要袋子 Yeah.
很重要，我要袋子。
Right. So 这是什么？那是什么？这个怎么说？厕所在哪儿？
Yeah, important.
对
OK， 左边右边直走，这些都能帮你很快完成生活上的需要。
没错。
Yeah.
对啊。
Right?
And then what?
So and I never believe this idea of easy and difficult. All right. There is high frequency and low frequency. There's known and unknown.
Okay.
Right. So you've either met it or you haven't met it. Right, you've never met it before, then you're not going to know what it means.
Right.
It doesn't matter if it's so-called easy or difficult. You know, like a lot of Chinese people don't know what crawl is.
Oh, okay. As in to crawl.
Crawl. Oh,
as in crawl.
Oh,
crawling. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So crawl. So a lot of Chinese people can't distinguish between walk to and walk towards.
对。
It's interesting,
right? These are actually different in terms of the internal representations that get created when you use them. Right? So there's a lot of that sort of subtlety in the language.
Yeah, for sure. So let's dig in. Let's dig into this. Let's dig in even further. Go even further beyond. So you're learning like a kid.
Yep.
然后
然后呢?
Yeah.
You keep learning like a kid.
Okay, so...
But specifically, the first thing you need to do is brain soaking, which is just listen to tons and tons and tons of stuff.
I have an immediate question.
Do not try to understand it. Throw away this idea that you're trying to understand it.
How do you not become frustrated with what you're listening to if you don't understand it?
All right, that gives you the second reason why you want to do this. All right,
okay.
You're brain soaking for two reasons. The first reason that you brain soak is to train your auditory filters in your brain to hear the sounds of the language.
So the melody of the language sort of thing.
No, the actual sounds. So there are frequencies that your brain filters out.
Okay.
Because it's an unfamiliar language.
Okay, interesting.
So in Mandarin, for instance, 剧场 and 机场 我相信很多刚刚开始学习的那些外国人，剧场机场分不清，对他来说是同一个音。
对，水饺、睡觉。
There's so many. There are so many examples of this.
对
Yeah.
蜂蜜、蜜蜂。
Yeah.
And you can't solve this by rote learning. The problem is that your brain is actually not hearing the distinction. Right? It's not letting the filters are not letting the sounds in. And to give you an example, we created a bunch of products, Rhythmic Mandarin, Rhythmic Cantonese. These were like, I think 42 soundtracks with music, rhythm, with lexical chunking, but we did it for Spanish, Japanese, and Korean as well. I was listening to our Spanish product and I was walking out for a walk listening. And I go, God, the sound quality is terrible.
Really?
Yeah. The sound quality is terrible. I mean, it's all mushy. You can't hear anything. And I was going to go and beat up on the production team.
Yeah.
And it was a holiday, so I let it be. And I listened for a few more days. And about day 4, it was clear as a bell.
Oh, really? It kind of cleared up, did it? Wow.
It cleared up. It was the brain not hearing the sounds. It wasn't the recording.
So this kind of practice would help people distinguish between tones and the sounds.
Absolutely. You'll pick it up. Your subconscious is going to pick up tonal differences. One of the biggest problems learning Mandarin is to try and go, that's a first tone, that's a second tone. No, look, when Chinese people are angry, they go flat.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right. There are no tones.
Yeah.
When they sing, the tones are following the music. They're not following the tonal rules. People still understand.
Oh, in singing, yeah.
Right. It's just because the tones are one of the redundancies in the language. Every language has multiple redundancies.
Right.
So you can actually understand it even if there's a loss of signal in one of the dimensions. This is why from the military, when they're talking numbers on the radio, they use 东摇两三四五六拐八九。不一样的，对。Right? Because you can't mistake the sounds. If you've got E and Qi, you're going to mistake the sounds.
Yeah.
4和10很像。
Yeah, 4和10，对。
Yeah, very true.
So the tones are one of the dimensions that we use to distinguish, right? But I remember being on trains in China back in the day and like going from Beijing up into Xinjiang and stuff. And there were people on the train from different places and they were chatting and like they'd talk for a while and one of them would say something and the other guy would go, what? And then the person would actually take their palm and draw out the character on the palm of their hand. Just with their finger, because the pronunciation difference between the regions meant that they couldn't understand each other with the sounds.
Wow.
But China is a country that is united by common script.
Yeah, right.
Right. So they would write on the palm of their hand. Right. And so we had a joke, write on the hand and then show them.
这个我没有看过，在台湾还没看过这个。
Yeah,
因为我们台湾其实没有很多的方言，我们就只有台语跟中文，就是你要么懂台语，要么懂中文，但是很少就是对哈卡也是，但是哈卡没有中文字。他们的中文字其实是很复杂，所以很少人会在你的手上写一个字，你就会听得懂，你就会看得懂他在写什么。
They think you're a bit weird.
但你想想，在中国嘛，天津跟北京有区别了。你的四川话说的就不一样了。
对。
然后呢，他们的很多词呢，摇的，这种东西也是没有碰过的。All right, so it's not just the sound. So you don't need to worry too much about it. You brain soak, you will actually hear the differences. You put your attention on the rhythm, on the tonality, on the speed that people are speaking, right? 节奏，那个不同的节奏，旋律等等. All right, so you just notice it like you're listening to birds singing. And that's it. You don't need to worry about what it means.
Okay. So, and going back to how not to become frustrated, I'm assuming that it's about motivation. Number one, it's about listening to something you're potentially interested in.
No, it could be anything. It's not about motivation. It's about understanding that it doesn't matter.
So you could just be going for a walk on your way to work, driving in the car, whatever it may be, listening to a radio show in your target language and just kind of soak it in as you're driving.
Soak it in. Yeah. That's why we call it brain soaking.
Right.
Right. And it does two things. It trains your filters in your head to actually hear the sounds, which is absolutely necessary. But the second thing it does is trains you, 有忍耐起意. You need to be comfortable with ambiguity. The more you're able to be comfortable with ambiguity, the more you can learn anything.
Right.
Right. A whole lot of people get frustrated because it's ambiguous.
Yeah.
They don't have the answer. They want the answer. They need to know now. And that's not going to happen for many, 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 many things in your life. If you're doing a project, if you're building software, if you're writing a book, it doesn't come together in an hour. It takes months, years, and you need to be comfortable with the fact that you're in the process and it's all going to be okay. So for language, if you end up being with people who speak your target language and you don't actually speak it yet, being able to brain soak as a state is really, really important. So in the early days, I go for a meal with my Chinese friends, and they'd be jabbering on. I didn't understand very much at all. So I just went into this brain soaking state, and I'd observe the body language and just listen to the sounds, and that was it. And what would happen, of course, is the subconscious part of the mind, which is actually more powerful than the conscious mind, would start to pick up the patterns.
Okay.
Right. So you would be seeing an expression and you'd be hearing a sound and you'd go, okay, that sound and that expression are connected because you observe it maybe 5 or 6 times. Right. Right. So for instance, in Hong Kong, I think, 有冇搞錯?
You must 搞錯.
Right. And you'd hear that and you'd see the body
expression.
language.
Right.
Okay. You can sort of understand what it means. 85% of communication is body language anyway.
还有肢体语言.
Yeah, I know.
肢体语言占领我们的沟通的非常大一块。
这个就是对啊，所有的这些就是重点，这个 Chris 老师说的，就是好像把你自己放在一个，好像把我们送到日本去，然后我们要一直听他们在讲日本话，然后我们不能觉得我们很笨，我们要知道我们在学习这种感觉，然后利用他们的肢体语言，利用我们可能我们自己有自己在学日文，在背一些单字，你再从中去找到你可能熟悉的那几个音，有可能是这样。像我自己，对，就像我在跟你的那个家庭聚会的时候，我可能英文我知道很多单字，但是我听不懂你的爸爸在说什么，我听不懂你的 cousin 他们在说什么，但是我可以但是我可以在肢体语言或是他们的谈话当中抓到1-2个英文单字，你就会觉得我赢了，like I won the game， 对啊，就是那种感觉。
是这样的。And people say, 学会了没有？其实学会这个概念是有问题。Right? You're learning words every day in your mother tongue until the day you die.
100%.
当然，对。
Right. 100%.
English now has 1 million words.
Damn them.
Right? And if you actually look at the vocabulary of a university graduate, it's probably about 15,000.
Right.
Right. And 3,000 is enough to deal with 98% of daily living work requirements.
Right.
Right. And if you've got that 3,000 word vocabulary and you understand how it all fits together and you can use it, then you know the language.
Sure.
Are you a literary genius? No.
But you are of a fluency. Conversation,
and you'll find pretty much everywhere the daily language of every people is every group of people anywhere is pretty limited.
Yeah, actually, I completely agree with this, and we find that challenge in books, these textbooks, HSK and stuff like that. You find where people go, well, we never use that word. You're not going to say that sentence generally in life. You know, if you live in Taiwan or whatever it is and you go down the street and you want to order food and you're meeting a friend or whatever, you're generally never going to say this thing. Why am I learning it? It's good to know, I guess, but...
well, is it?
I don't know.
What'll happen is, you know, you get to a point, if you've got the 3,000 words and you're handling daily life, then you hit a plateau.
Yeah.
Right. And the only way to go beyond that plateau is to start reading broadly around stuff that interests you. And the research is really clear. In their mother tongue, kids who's, say in the English world, whose English is really, really good, are kids who love to read.
Sure.
And kids whose English is crap are kids who don't like reading.
Yeah.
And you can't solve this by teaching them grammar or anything else. Right? People, you improve your language and you get more and more words and more flexibility in the language as a function of how much you interact with the language in order to achieve other goals.
Right.
So it's relevant. Like I used to read science fiction. I was 12. I was reading science fiction. I read all the greats, all the classics. Asimov and Heinlein and all those. I think I read all of their books. I read the Dune series.
Classic.
Yeah, I mean, so hundreds and hundreds. I was reading anthropology. I was reading stuff about archaeological stuff. I was reading about physics. Psychology. When I was 11, I wrote to Russia about information on sleep learning.
You wrote to them?
Yeah. I came across this information saying that in Moscow there was this group of people that were researching sleep learning, and an 11-year-old kid, I wrote them a letter and said, "Yeah, can you send me information?" And they did.
Sleep learning, though.
对啊，这怎么
I would challenge that as a technique.
我以为会觉得很奇怪，所以 sleep learning 的一个的目标概念是什么
？Okay, so sleep learning. Okay, the promise of it was the promise of it was if you were sleeping and you were listening to stuff in your sleep, then you would be picking it up
subconsciously.
Now,
right?
Yeah. Now that was, you got to understand, this was really, really early days. This was before brain sciences really took off.
Right.
In any meaningful way. So the premise was not wrong.
Okay.
But sleep has many stages.
Okay.
So if you get into deep alpha, like a hypnagogic pre-sleep state, that is actually a state in which you will absorb a lot of information subconsciously. Okay, but if you're in deep delta, then you're gone. You're not going to get anything. So this was really early days, and they were on the forefront of the research in this stuff, and it was really, really interesting. Today we know that you can just sit there, you can consciously put yourself into an alpha state, slightly hypnagogic state. You can use music, you can use various ways to change your brain state, and that's going to absorb information. So
is that something you would prescribe as a language learning technique?
Yeah, well, this is why we use use music in Kung Fu English, for instance.
Right.
All right. So it modifies your state. It puts you into a happy state. But music also turns on both sides of the brain. So both sides of the brain are communicating with each other. Different parts of the brain are communicating with each other. The emotions get engaged. So it has multiple functions.
And what would you say? What would you say about studying or learning language in by whatever means just before you sleep? Because I mean, I've read that when you sleep, your memories are kind of concreted, the neural pathways are thickened, if that's a real thing. And, that's when you make memories during sleep. No? That's what I've read. Correct me if I'm wrong. Learning just before bed, good?
Well, exactly, because the sleeping process is where a lot of chemical reactions and everything are happening. So yes, the sleep process is important for cementing memory. And if you are pushing yourself and not sleeping enough, you're actually not going to be learning very much.
we have a 2-month-old baby, so we're doing that right now. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, we're doing that not learning thing right now. I just want to go back a little bit, just to where you're saying about soaking in the language, which is great. And I want to know the next step, because so we've spent. I'm a noob. I don't know anything. I'm just learning. I want to learn Dongwon, and I don't know anything. I've come aboard. I've started soaking. I'm listening to, I don't know, a sports podcast I really like. It's about boxing, and I listen to it. I don't really understand much, but it's going in somewhere, and I'm trying to learn, get used to the frequency of the language, blah, blah, blah. What happens now?
Okay.
What do I do?
Well, you need to start getting to a point where you label things.
Okay.
All right. So chair, microphone, glasses.
Right.
Yeah. Headphones.
Headphones, yeah.
Yeah, whatever, right?
Whatever, yeah.
So you need to learn what to call things.
Okay.
All right, and start labeling. So and in this process, you need to be connecting the sounds of your language to the internal representations of those things.
And how would one do that? What's the actual method? I mean, you say label.
Well,
what do you mean?
Okay, so all right, your kids, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned your kids. When they were little, when they were starting to learn things, did they point at things like and say, "Basil"?
Yeah, well, they say, "What's that?" Probably first, right?
What's that?
What's that, right? And then you tell them, and then they'd start looking at it, touching it, licking it, and saying out loud a sound that represented it. So they were consciously connecting that sound to a whole range of sensory impressions.
Right.
All right. So that's what you need to do. You don't rote learn it. Do a translation. As soon as you're doing that, you're creating a link from, say, English to Mandarin, and your only pathway is from English to Mandarin or Mandarin to English, and you can't talk a language that way. It's too slow.
Sure.
You need to go to your internal representations, and just to give you an example of this, I'm going to say a couple of words, and I just want you to notice how you respond internally. So, soft, freezing, okay, sour, fire.
Yep. Ouch.
Right? Joy. Stupid.
Hey. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And you would notice for each one of those is an internal shift through your whole body that happens.
There's definitely an emotional response, isn't there, to these words? Yeah.
Yeah. So we actually have a full body, full brain response to the sounds of every single word in the language.
And you need to get that somehow by touching, licking. Well, probably not licking.
No, it depends.
Okay.
You can.
Hey, look, Chris told me to lick it. That's what I'll say, Mr. Officer. Ice cream's fine. Okay. So we.
我有一个问题。
OK， 好。
如果就是像就是 Chris 老师说的，就是你要去从你生活当中去得到那些你需要用到的东西的单字，像你有一个办法，就是你喜欢 label 东西在，就是比如说桌子，你就写桌子，然后放在上面，每一次你看到的时候，你就说桌子。这很像大人的方法，因为当然我们不能像小孩一样，你知道，就是一直问为什么，这是什么，这是什么。但是就像在家里面贴很多的纸条 ，a lot of memos on each items。那到外面呢
？Yeah.
Go outside。因为如果像是一个没有一个中文环境的 you don't get a lot of Chinese environment 的这些学生，这些想要学习中文的人，他们一走到外面，他们要怎么去取得他们所需要的这些单字呢？
那首先。每一个地方，不管时间哪儿呢，有中国人。
所以就是还是需要有那个，还是需要环境啦。
Yeah, we would talk.
不是需要环境，语言本身是为了跟人沟通。
当然。
OK， 所以你迟早得找一些你可以用这个工具来跟人沟通，要不然你不能掌握，它不是一门学科，它是一个技能。Right? It's a skill. It's not knowledge. And skills get stronger through use, and they disappear through misuse. You can lose your mother tongue. You can grow up in a language and not use it for 10 years and not be able to speak it.
Yeah.
这也是有可能，对。
我见过了，我有一个朋友，以前他小时候呢，他是以 Swahili 的那个语言来长大的。He's a white guy from Rhodesia, but he grew up speaking Swahili. And he cannot speak a word of it.
Kenya, is it Kenya?
Kenya, yeah, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jambo, I think is hello, isn't it? I don't know what's that.
Yeah. So he just couldn't speak a word of it, right? There was a British soldier who got left in Guangdong province at the end of the Second World War.
Oh.
And when they found him in about 1984 or something, he couldn't speak English.
Well, he had to speak the language to survive, right? Surely.
Yeah.
He can only speak Cantonese.
Wow.
Right, so you can lose your mother tongue. So you need to understand that language is a skill. It's a tool. You need to use it as a tool. So sooner or later, you need to be using it to communicate with people. Or if you're comfortable just being passive and understanding, then you start using, say, Mandarin to interact with audio and textual materials that are of deep interest to you.
对。
Right. And so you're going to at least be able to understand, even if you're not able to speak, because speaking is a different ball game. You need to activate more parts of your brain in order to speak than you do just to understand passively.
Right.
So, environment is seriously, it doesn't matter where you are on planet Earth, there's going to be Chinese people. So you seek them out. But the other thing is if you need to find learning materials which help you understand, you create the internal representations. So for instance, yesterday I was working with my wife and we were studying together some stuff, and this word capacitance came up. Ooh. All right. And she's like, what's capacitance? Okay. So I went and found a video showing capacitance. Okay. Capacitance is where you have two sides that are separated by an insulator.
Oh.
And you put charge in. So what will happen is it'll charge up.
Oh.
So you'll end up with a positive charge on one side, negative charge on the other. And then if you put something in that will use that charge, then the charge will flow back out of the capacitor. So
okay. So it's to do with a capacitor. Okay. It's okay. Okay. Mm-hmm.
You have to touch, feel. You have to understand in your bones what it is.
How the?
Okay.
All right. So, for instance, if you're living in a place where there's nobody you can talk to, but as you were doing, Tom, you went around the house and you labeled everything.
Yep.
Right. 500 things, I bet.
It's so many. It were all over the house. It looked ridiculous.
I mean, it'll be 500 things.
Yeah.
Right. So you look at it, you touch it, you've got your label, you know what it is. By the time you're outside, you can look around yourself and the labels are in your mind already. You don't need to go labeling stuff out in the wide world, right? Right. So, and then of course, at the end of the day, it comes down to you need to be interacting. This is why you sooner or later have to find a language parent.
Right. A teacher or an exchange partner or something.
A language parent.
A parent. Okay.
A language parent. It's not an exchange.
Okay.
The problem with the exchange is you end up with the extrovert tends to get all the time.
Oh, right. And in exchange, yes, for sure. Yeah.
Right. So exchanges don't actually work that well. There's a winner and a loser generally.
Okay.
In an exchange.
Yes. And
of course, the exchange very quickly gets to the point where both sides are more comfortable with one language than the other because it's more efficient.
Right.
So they get into talking about life and they forget about teaching language. And the point is not to teach language. It is, in fact, to have real interactions. But a language parent is someone who will understand you even when you're way off beam.
Yeah.
And they will repeat back to you what they think you mean as a mechanism of clarification, not to correct you.
Interesting. So don't correct?
什么意思？
Don't correct.
Oh, okay.
Don't correct. If you're a language parent for someone else, you model the correct whatever it is as soon as possible after the event, but you don't correct the person.
Because, like, for example, if we're speaking, and this happens in Zhongwen and Ingwen together, but if Eula says something wrong in English and I don't correct, she'll say, "Can you correct me next time? Like, can you make sure that you correct me?" Right? Or me the same way, right?
对。
So would you say that not to do that?
还是就是说同一个句子，但是是对的。
Somebody say, okay, here's the thing. It's like your kids, right? He can correct you. You can correct him. Next time, there's no guarantee that he's going to do it right.
Sure.
So it's the same as a kid because the brain is not ready yet. And the heart is not motivated to make that change yet. Because there's too many other moving pieces that you're trying to master. Okay. So now what you do is, for instance, the kid, the baby says, "I want bath." And you would go, "You want a bath?" Yeah. I want bath.
Okay.
Okay. So let's go have a bath. You want a bath now? I want bath now. Okay. So you're modeling the correct form. And the kid's hearing it, but is not necessarily going to correct themselves immediately, but it's information that is getting laid into the brain.
Right.
Okay. Now, if you take this invitation to correct to its logical conclusion, what you will do is you'll correct every 2 minutes.
Okay.
You'll correct every 2 minutes, and you can destroy somebody's confidence within a day.
What? 1,000%.
真的
1,000%. I've had teachers that do this.
Right. Within a day, the person goes, "Oh, I will never learn this language. Yep. I'm done."
Yeah, I can't be bothered. Right? Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
No, right. You don't correct that way. You model correct form in the context of clarifying meaning, which we do all the time.
So it's more about, instead of saying no, you should say it like this. It's more, do you mean blah 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 blah.
So when Carrie say, "Can you give that for me, please?" And I say, "Do you want me to
give that to
you?"
Yes, exactly.
Is that way? Okay. So 就是不要说不对，你应该要这样说。Instead of doing that， 你会说 like 一个完整的对的句子 back to reply.
对。And then the next thing you can do, if they clearly have met it many, many times and have not shifted yet, then you need a little bit of motivation.
Right.
So when they say it wrong, you go, "Huh? What?"
Okay.
What was that? And all that does is it basically breaks their state, makes them go, "Oh, that didn't work. Why didn't it work?" They will search their brain for the answer to that question. Why didn't it work? And then they will find the correct form because they've already had it modeled many times.
Right.
And then they will say it correctly. Now, as an adult, you'll find a lot of people will open their mouth and they will say it correctly, and then they will edit it and they will say it incorrectly.
Interesting.
Have you noticed that happening?
我在说英文的时候会，就是我会很想要把我自己想要说的东西很快的说出来，但是我会有 he she 的问题，但是我会 self correct myself， 因为我停下来我就开始检视 check my sentence， 好像不对，我应该要说不一样的方式。
但是你的 self correction 是往准确的方向还是往不准确的方向？
往准确的，往对的方向。
有很多人会往不准确的方向，他的第一个感觉是对的，但是他不相信他的第一个感觉。
这是你吧？
是我。
对，我是不一样的，我们是不一样的。
对，
我会自己 self correct， in the right way， 但是你会怀疑自己，然后说出不对的单字。
Here's the thing for he and she. Okay, just remember when you're talking about somebody, have an image of the person, and then that's a he, and that's a she.
That's a trick for you.
我知道，很难欸。
I think I nailed the he and she. I got it.
You did it.
Yeah. I got it.
But have you nailed left and right yet?
In English?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. No? Why? Are you going to give me a test?
Nah.
Because this is mirrored, isn't it? I don't know. You're going to say something and trick me into getting it wrong.
I'm not going to give you a test. I'm going to give you
So we have to wrap this up soon. But it's interesting. I have one other question actually about speed of learning, because this is a big thing in the language learning arena. And there's a lot of people who are selling this idea that you can learn languages in a couple of weeks or a couple of months. And I realize that you may say, oh, that's down to the person. But we get so many questions from so many people saying, well, why, I've been studying for 5 years. What's wrong? Is something wrong with me? Am I doing it wrong? Someone may have studied for 2 years, but be much more fluent.
Progressed.
If that's, So what speeds do you think you should be learning? Is there such a thing, or are these?
Okay. Yeah. From information that I am personally aware of.
Yeah.
If you can do full immersion.
Okay. Big if.
And so you're using it every day, and it's a tool of communication, and it's relevant, and you learn as a child, and that you can be competent to fluent in 6 months.
Okay. This is the premise of your TED Talk also. No?
It's 6 months. Now, once you know how to learn a language, and maybe you've learned one or even two, then the next ones will come much, much, much more quickly.
And this happened with you in Guangdonghua, didn't it?
Yeah, I hitchhiked through Japan. Guangdonghua was about 4 months. Japan, I hitchhiked through Japan for 2 weeks. I was up to 60% daily fluency in 2 weeks.
In Japanese?
In Japanese.
Oh, okay.
And then I went back to Hong Kong and didn't use it for 10 years. So it evaporated as these things do. Yeah. I went to Vietnam and ran a workshop for a Vietnamese team for an international company. So they didn't speak very good English. So I was talking in English. It was being translated. We'd have small group breakouts and they'd report back to the group, and they would be speaking in Vietnamese. And so the translator was there sort of translating for me. But many, many times he would go, I don't know what the word is in English. I said, I think the word you want is this one. He said, how did you know that? Because I was understanding 60, 70% of what they were saying. Because basically about 30% of Vietnamese is in Mandarin and 30% is Cantonese.
Right. So you had the basis of it already.
It's really interesting. Like they have gum en, po, which is gan en, which is xie xie.
Oh.
And ong is weng, and po is
people.
Ba po de po.
Female po.
Right. Po de po. So there's an incredible amount of similarity and overlap because languages morph. The physical metaphor for me was 筷子。中国的筷子比较长，也平的。日本的筷子短和尖的。
这个我没注意到。
韩国的筷子那个长度跟日本的跟中国的之间也有一点尖，但没那么尖。
而且很平。
有的很，如果用铁做的，它平的，但是木做的是尖的。
Okay.
So there's been this morphing in the shape of chopsticks from China down through Korea to Japan. So you can see the same thing happening with the sounds and the structures of language. They morph across geographies. It's a fascinating thing to observe.
So it took you 2 weeks to get to 60% in Vietnamese because you had
No, there was Japanese.
Oh, Japanese. But because you said you had a basic understanding, of Dongwon and...
No, that was in Vietnamese I was picking up because Vietnamese is closer to Chinese and Japanese is.
Right. And your second language, obviously your first language is English. Your second language was Dongwon?
My second language was French.
法文.
Okay, that's got something it's Latin based, isn't it? So
it's Latin based, and I was basically fluent in French, and I was in Beijing and got to a certain point where one day I couldn't speak French.
Oh, interesting.
Just it switched off overnight.
Because of the logic, or why did it just switch off?
Because it was a second language, not yet up to native level. And so when Mandarin took over, got past it, then my go-to in the brain was Mandarin, not French.
French, it kicked it out.
I kicked it out.
Wow.
这就是刚刚提到的 frequency， 就是你多常用这个语言。如果你长期都在用中文，没有在用法文，那你的法文当然就拜。就走了，
拜拜了，没了。
So the big thing here, you said it's about immersion, right? So the big thing you said, if you want people to learn,
if you're immersed, you can do it in 6 months.
Now, obviously, most of us have jobs and life, just a songhua, so we can't dedicate 100% of the time to learning a language, and certainly cannot be immersed in it all the time. I mean, you can soak and that kind of stuff you were suggesting, watch Chinese dramas and that kind of stuff, and maybe find a teacher or just be able to have Chinatown and have a conversation with someone. But you're not going to get it all the time. So what about those people, the majority of people who cannot be immersed all the time?
Well, if you can spend an hour a day doing something, you're going to be able to use the language within a couple of years without a problem.
And that something would be, I don't know, practice on maybe an app or
an app. So you get an app where you can actually hear sounds, see images. You've got music mapping it. Like a rhythmic Mandarin audio series. People have used it. They get great results. Cantonese the same. There's the pencil system, which is pretty good. So you're building it up layer by layer on a solid foundation that's grounded in the auditory system.
This is kind of Rosetta Stone-esque, is it not? This style
Rosetta Stone-esque apparently said that they were using Krashen's ideas of comprehensible input, and Krashen has slammed them and said that's not actually what they're doing.
Right.
Rosetta Stone, in a sense, is correct because they've got images and then they have audio that matches the images. So that piece is done correctly. But you need more than that, right? Because you do need to practice your pronunciation. You need to train your hearing. You need to mix and match words. So as soon as you have got 10 words that you can mix and match, you should start using them, even if you're talking to yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Right. You should go through scenarios. I would like to order a steak. Right? 我想一个牛排，给我一杯热茶。Okay. 有没有筷子? So these really simple, basic scenarios that you have in everyday life, you need to be able to start using them. So you can talk to yourself. If there are apps that allow you to practice that, then great. If you have a language parent, go to lunch with them and just talk about the food,
Yeah.
So, but you need, the more you can use it, the better you're going to get, right? If you drive a car once every 3 months, how good are you going to be?
Not so good.
If you're driving every day for 12 hours,
don't care.
You're going to be professional in a few months, right?
Autopilot.
Yeah. It is. That's it.
Yeah, it's a skill. You need to understand it's a skill. So the more you use it, the faster it's going to be, the better you're going to get, the more distinctions you're going to be able to make.
Yeah.
The less time you put into it, the worse it's going to be. Now, can you speed up the process? The answer is yes. If you stop rote learning vocab, and you stop trying to analyze grammar, and you start connecting directly to your internal representations with the sounds. You go for individual words first. So you're mapping the world with a new sound set. And then you do the simple grammar, which is, you give me, I give you, what, where, when, how, who, the numbers. There's a bunch of glue words that any language has. You master those and you start mixing and matching and then making simple communications. Then you're going to be communicative very quickly.
How do you get past? I don't know how much time you've got. How do you get past the point? Do you have much time left?
No, I'm cool. I'm cool. I love talking about this stuff.
How do you get past the point of that stage? That you can have a basic conversation, you can glue things together. You maybe don't know, complex words about complex subjects, but you can stick stuff together. How do you get past that point? When
most people can't get to that point.
Oh, okay.
Right. Once you're at that point, then you have the confidence to go beyond that point.
Right.
All right. And the way to get past it is to, again, you find people who have similar interests to you.
Okay.
And you start having real conversations with them.
It's more like a topic.
And they should prefer
themed.
Yeah.
Practice.
Would you suggest, for example, obviously you have that conversation in your target language, perhaps choose some friends who don't speak English or have limited ability.
Yes.
Yeah. And then have the conversation with them totally in that language without English correction if possible. So, right. Interesting. So if you were going to have not a language exchange, maybe you had a teacher or something like that, would you suggest a total, like the session to be completely in Zhongwen?
Sure.
Yeah. On a topic that you're interested in. So you can piece things together.
If you've got a language parent, it could be a topic that they're interested in.
Right.
So I had a couple of language parents. One was young guy. We would meet in his room with a whiteboard and stuff. And, when we didn't understand each other, he'd be drawing stuff. I'd be drawing stuff. So that was one way. And then there's this painter who was in those days probably in his mid-40s. And we would go for tea or 饺子 and 他会在那儿叽叽叽叽叽叽喳喳说很多很多很多，有的我懂，有很多我不懂。But so I was brain soaking. I was getting the body language. I was picking up snippets, and then the next time we met, like a few days later, it would be the same topics.
Okay.
了解。
So finding an elderly person who needs a friend.
Oh, right. Yeah.
需要说话。
Yeah.
需要说话，需要跟人沟通。
对。
It's great, right? Because they have their stories. They're going to tell the same stories over and over and over again. You're going to pick it up. Also, if you can find reading material that is not too complicated. So if someone's learning English, kids' books in English are really rich. There's a lot of them. They are leveled for vocab and stuff. So it's a very rich sort of ecosystem. I'm not so sure about the Chinese ecosystem for kids' books.
Wow.
不知道。
我也不知道。对啊，需要做多一点功课。
I think they're very complicated. They don't have a lot of pictures.
Some of it's history based.
对，我会说我们台湾的
Peppa Pig.
哈
Peppa Pig, that's the way forward.
对，
Netflix
生活
Peppa
化
Pig 中文。
对，生活化的。
生活化的，对。Yeah. So it's got to be leveled. So it's high frequency content.
Yeah.
But it's rich content, and it's linked to physical reality in a way that you can map.
And so sorry.
You hear it, and you know what object is being referred to, for instance.
Right. You talk about reading, and this is 很有意思 because a lot of people we speak to come to us and say, well, I just want to speak. I just want to be conversational. Okay. So how much importance do you put on being able to understand the characters versus pinyin in being able to become sort of
well, pinyin, you'll go nuts. Okay. Pinyin is a useful tool for people who speak English to use a Chinese dictionary. Right? Because you can get the pinyin from what you're hearing, and then you can look for it.
Yeah.
Okay. It'll shorten your time to finding characters massively. If you have to do 部首啊，去找那个时间要长很多。
对，真的。
All right. So from my point of view, pinyin is a great tool for using a dictionary, and it's a short-term fill-in if you can't quite remember the character.
Right.
Okay. But the characters in and of themselves, because 他们的形状也是沟通那个含义嘛。
对，
有三点水啊，有人字旁啊，什么这些东西。So that
他们是有故事的。
the characters are actually really rich in meaning in and of themselves, and they give you hints as to what they mean. The challenge with Chinese, which is different to English, is you don't know how it sounds from looking at it.
对，所以你需要知道他们的
there's a disconnect, right?
对啊
Right. In English, you can learn phonics.
Yeah.
You are going to get 80% of the sounds correct from phonics because English is a mongrel language anyway. It's got German, it's got Latin, it's got French, it's got non-English sounds in it. And if you go back, 500 years, the way English was spoken is completely different to today. There's a site I found recently where they actually had people from the south of England. They actually were talking based on how it sounded back in 500 years ago, 400 years ago, and it's just wow. It's some of it sounded German, some of it sounded Scandinavian, some of it sounded what you hear those sounds in South Africa now from English people, the Boers. Yeah. It's very, very interesting. Yeah. So even the sounds morph over time, right? But the problem with Chinese is you see the character, you can only guess at, is it a G or a C, for instance, right?
Sure.
Right? So there's a lot, G, Y, C, there's like 50 characters for each of these sounds, right? And so you're looking at these characters, you don't exactly know what it is. But what will happen is if you get it in context and you're reading at your level, there's only 5%, maybe you don't know, then you'll jump over it, knowing pretty much what the story's all about. And then you'll hear someone talking and you'll put the two together. So that's sort of how you deal with it.
Is there a method you can suggest for learning characters that most effectively?
哇，这个问题。
Yeah, get a pen pal.
Oh, right. Just write letters, literally. And you find those characters in a dictionary, you put them together, you hope it's right. And
No. What? No. Well, yes, you do. You can, but again, you go with a high frequency, right? Right. So you can get the first 100. You for Chinese, you do need to sit down and go, okay, this tian means, right? Tian means what, right? So you're matching the Chinese sounds to the Chinese characters. You don't want to be matching Chinese characters to English translations.
Right.
You must match it to the sound, and you must then understand that the sound and that character are representing some idea. And then when you're writing, you should not think in English and try and then write it in Chinese and look at the dictionary. You're going to go nuts. Okay. You write only what you can say.
Okay, and that could be at a 4-year-old level, or a child essentially.
Exactly. I was in Beijing, and they threw me into an intermediate class, and I'd not ever learned any Chinese before.
Right.
So it's interesting. I went on an exchange scholarship, and there were 6 of us. 5 of them had been doing Chinese up to second year university. And here's me, no Chinese, basically. Yeah. But I'd gone to Beidaihe, and I'd brain soaked on the train on the way back for 8 hours with someone talking to me in the transfer, and then I was starting to understand stuff. And so we, like a week in, they said, okay, write this little essay, 100 words or whatever it was, right? And so I sat down, started to use the words I could use auditorily, and I was just looking for how to write them from the dictionary.
所以现在很多就是台湾的老师，他们都会请小朋友要写一句他们今天做的事情，用中文写，就是 like elementary school 3rd grade 4th grade 他们正在学习怎么写中文。那每一天
一样的，
对，每一天你要写说我今天读了什么书，那你就全部写下来，你就必须要知道每一个字怎么写，就是找你最能够接近或是最有效的一个方法，就是写日记。Write a diary， 这是最有效的。以前我也是用英文写日记。
This all sounds kind of like natural learning to me, no one's correcting you, right?
Exactly.
So you don't actually know whether what you're writing is correct or not. You just think, that's probably the way I should say it.
Yeah, exactly. Like your kids are probably mirror writing English at the moment.
Yeah. And so what you're saying is
they don't know the R which way it goes, right?
What you're saying is after a certain amount of practice, whether it's oral or writing, it'll just click at some point.
Yep.
As long as you stay consistently practicing at doing these things, it will just click at some point.
而且不要觉得自己很笨。不要觉得自己很笨。
Let me just check this other mic, yeah?
没关系. Yeah, it's really interesting. It's interesting way to do it. And I think immersion, that's the big trick a lot of people, the challenge people have, because obviously life, they have to go to work. They're getting English input or whatever their language is input all day. They do a little bit of Zhongwen or whatever it is when they get home. And usually it's not enough, I guess. So they become frustrated because they're not making.
Well, it's not enough because they want to be like an adult within a week.
100%. Yeah, this is what a lot of people are selling.
If you adjust your expectations, you're going to be fine.
Right. But this is my problem, and I've seen a lot of people sell this, and there's the number of companies out there that say you can be fluent in a couple of months or whatever it is. The huge if is what you mentioned earlier. It's about getting completely immersed in. If you can do that, then you get to a decent level in a short amount of time. But usually you can't. So the expectation actually should be follow this technique, and if you do everything we say, a couple of years later, your expectation needs to be over here, not. Otherwise it's just you're selling people a dream that's unreachable if you have to work and have kids and.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So my partner didn't speak a word of English, and she was involved with Kung Fu English from day one. So as we were creating the content, she was using the content, and people meet her today and go, 你是不是那个华侨啊？你是不是在美国长大的啊？什么？ And no, she was only doing about an hour a day.
Okay. And
doing it.
And what was she doing during that hour?
She was listening to rhythmic English. So she was it's English. It's Chinese and then English mapped with lexical chunking and stuff with music. And then just 42 songs, which covers about 800 of the highest frequency words and phrases and contexts. She was able to use English to start getting around. And so once you get to that point, then every interaction in the language, you're going to get better.
Right.
所以他那1个小时是在做这个教材。那他跟你也是说英文吗？
没有。
没有，就这么1个小时，一天就是1个小时。
没有跟我说英文。
但他的老婆的目标是要学英文，所以我就在想，会不会是你们也是就是在这1个小时以外，也都是用英文在沟通？
不是，是用中文的。
So 42, she completed the 42 hours, is that right?
42 songs.
42 songs, okay. And she listened to those, a number of those songs for 1 hour every day. For how long before she became kind of...
She was competent. She started using English and getting around in about 4 months, I think, 4 or 5 months.
Right. So she could finally say, "Who's this guy? Who's this guy?"
Well, that would exactly. Yeah. Who are you? Where are you from?
Why do you keep coming here? Okay.
但是就是那种比较最基础的就是表达的方式，它是可以的。
怎么说 Okay. Because we did another one called Rhythmic Cantonese in Hong Kong, and I was at a cocktail one evening, and this guy from the UK was there, and we were chatting, and I said, "How long have you been here?" So I've been here about 6 months. Oh, that's cool. He said, I speak Cantonese now. I said, "Oh, great. That's how did you do that?" He says, "I use this CD series called Rhythmic Cantonese." I said, "So tell me about it."
Ooh.
And he said,
direct feedback. Okay. Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, it's got music and it covers, basically all of the content you need to deal with daily life. And you get everything, you get the tones, everything, and it's really great." and so we said, so let's talk a bit in Cantonese, and we did. And his Cantonese was not too bad. He wasn't up to native level, but he was definitely able to get around and make himself understood. Pretty good. And then we exchanged name cards. And he goes,
"Oh, huh?
Oh,
yeah.
You're Chris Lonsdale." I said, "Yeah, I am actually." So, so basically, if you've got 800 words to 1,000 words, you're gonna be able to handle 85% of everything that's going to get thrown at you in daily life.
Can you tell me a little bit more? We're going to let you go very shortly, so don't worry. Can you just tell me a little bit? Don't worry, we will let you go. About the Mandarin music you're talking about, and you said is there also 42 songs on the Mandarin version?
Yeah.
How does it exactly? So there's 42 songs. How does it explain, if at all, any of these words? Does it just sing them to you? I mean, what's the?
Okay. No. So you've got music.
Yeah.
And then you have. So to give you an example, I wa. All right. Okay. I want. Yao. I want. 我要. You don't need explanation.
Okay.
So what's happening is you are hearing it in mother tongue.
Yep.
Okay. It's being presented at 60 beats a minute, basically.
Oh,
so are they singing this?
Huh?
Are they singing this? Oh.
No, not singing. So you're talking over the music, but it's done to the rhythm.
Oh, right. Okay. So there's music playing in the background and someone's...
But the words are actually lyrics to the song because you're in time with the song.
Okay.
You're not disconnecting the rhythm with the content.
Interesting.
所以这首歌里面有中文和英文。
This is...
any language.
Yeah. They have multiple.
So in Kung Fu English, we have rhythmic English. So you've got Mandarin and then the English. So you always have the mother tongue first. Okay, if it's rhythmic Mandarin, you hear the English and then you hear the Mandarin. And it chunks it out lexically, so you're building it up to a full sentence. Okay. 我要喝热水. So I want to drink hot water, right? So you'll have I want, drink, to drink, right? Water, hot water, and you'll be mapping those. So the meaning is clear. You need to make sure that people understand what it means when they hear it.
Right.
And then you're achieving comprehensible input.
And what level do you get up to when you get to 42? Like what sentences?
800, like you've got 800 words and pretty much all of the daily average context that people are going to be in a restaurant, talking to friends, introducing themselves, where are they coming from, numbers, colors, all that stuff.
And all the sort of grammar points that you would cover in a... I mean, you
don't talk about the grammar.
No, no. Please no.
No, people will actually pick up the grammar just by noticing the lexical mapping.
Yeah, right. So you have the sentence patterns, all the common sentence patterns in there. You never explain it, but okay. Yeah, like a child.
对啊，就是告诉你怎么说。
I learned le. I said this before a bunch of times, but I've learned le. I didn't understand the grammar for le. And my teacher tried to explain it, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. The only way I learned it was I listened to Eula using le in sentences, and I just intuitively now know where to put it. But I cannot explain to you the grammatical side of it.
对，这就变成了一个语感，就是 the language feeling， 就是我知道我放在这边是对的。
Yeah, right.
So you're talking about 去了买了, right?
Yeah.
Okay, 笑了. Okay. So the way to explain that in grammar, if you want to explain it, is le equals ed.
Ed, okay, like he liked or whatever, yeah.
Boom. It's what I call a 词例子. It's a little I don't even know. It's a little chunk. So in English is a 词例子.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like ing.
Okay.
Yeah.
ing, right? It's a 词例子, and that ing sound carries a meaning which we will perceive in our mind and our body as movement over time.
哇
Suffix,
好深好深的
Yeah, but then also, okay, it frustrated the hell out of me, to be fair. That whole session.
Yeah. For me, it was 哺乳.
Oh, right.
哺乳 is like people tried to explain 哺乳 to me for weeks. I just couldn't get it.
And your brain just makes the decision, right? It goes, nope, I'm not gonna get that. So true, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to omitting things. Oh no, you can put le there, but you don't have to. What? Either you do, you don't. No, you don't. I mean, you could put it there and there if you want to. All right.
We know the pain. 因为像在我们在学英文的时候，我们也是要学很多的 preposition， 什么 off, on, in， 什么时候要用这些，我怎么知道？中文也没有，但是你就只能一直用它，然后用到你用到对为止。
对，但是你可以加快。OK， 比如 in, at, on 都是有一个具体的一个地理位置。Okay. So are you in the car or are you on the car?
这个还好 direction 是还好，但是比如说 speaking of something， 为什么我要一个 of 在这边，但是中文就没有一个解释 of 为什么。
Okay.
对。
This is another really important point. Never ask why.
Yes! All right, that's it. See you, Chris. My point. I've been saying this for ages now.
真的。
You just proved my point. Yay!
对啊，我也是
Okay, but let me explain why.
Yep. No, don't. No.
It's important. It's important that people understand the reason for this, which is the person you ask will not have the answer.
Okay. Not the right answer for you anyway.
Yeah.
No, nobody will have the answer. The reason that words are used in a certain way in any language is because this group of people in this culture have agreed to do it this way.
Right.
真的。
Yeah.
谢谢 Chris.
Right.
They've agreed to do it this way. It doesn't have a reason to it, other than this is what the group has agreed to over time.
This is the way it is.
没有为什么。
And you will have an etiology. You can go back in history. You might find, say, in English, it's coming from Roman origins. You might find, in Chinese, like for instance, 为什么说在火车上为什么那个牌子写非饮用水？ Right? Now, I don't know, but Cantonese talks about yum cha, yum sui.
Yeah.
So there's an alternative word for drink, which is yin or he, and one is probably originating from Cantonese and part of the lexicon, but only used for literary communication in Mandarin. So you can take a language all the way back into its etiology.
Yeah.
And that's a sort of some people love to do that, but for a language learner, it doesn't matter.
100% agree.
真的。
And I said this at the beginning about kids not asking why. 没有为什么. They don't say why is that cup.
对，他们就只听到 my daddy, mommy 就是 correct me in this way， 所以我要说这个句子，我才可以得到我要的。
Yeah.
对。
Yeah. So the big question is how? How do I communicate this?
Right.
That's it. And then you use that and you get the outcome you want. And then you go to the next one and then you go to the next one. And if you do one a day, if you do one phrase a day that solves one problem in life, then you're going to have 30 phrases a month. And that's going to include many different words. So in a month, you're going to have maybe 200 words.
Right. Where can our listeners grab your Mandarin music?
Rhythmic Mandarin can be found. I think it's just audio now on iTunes. We did have an app, but we didn't keep up with the development required. So Apple takes you off if you're not keeping up with their OS.
Right.
But you can still find. Probably there's a few places. Just do a search for Rhythmic Mandarin.
Google Rhythmic Mandarin. You'll find it.
Rhythmic Mandarin. Yeah, look on iTunes for Rhythmic Mandarin. But there's some other places.
Spotify. Do you know? Is it on Spotify? Do you know? Spotify.
Don't know. I've not personally engaged in looking at the details of that for quite some time. I've just been too busy on improving Kung Fu English.
And is this Rhythmic Mandarin, maybe a silly question, part of Kung Fu English's offerings? Does it fall under the Kung Fu English brand or?
The company is Third Ear Publishing.
The book.
So Third Ear Publishing publishes that, and then Third Ear Publishing created Kung Fu English. Yeah.
And your book, The Third Ear, is that on Audible?
It's not on Audible.
Get it on Audible.
No,
it's
they take 80%.
It's the future audio. Loads of people listen to it.
We did. It is available on iTunes. So the audio book is on iTunes as an app. It's on the App Store as an app. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. And obviously you can buy it from any good retailer. Do you have anything else coming out that people should know about?
For Mandarin, right?
Preferably. Or language. Hey, look, we have linguists listen, so
语言学相关的。
Right now, I'm doing wrap up and clean up on some stuff that we've been building. So nothing imminent.
Okay.
For the next probably 6 months or so.
Right, but exciting things.
So, yeah,
and stress.
Well, I need to do some clean up on stuff. I need to dot the T's and cross the I's. for a few things.
Right.
I did do a webinar series for Mandarin learners of English. One specifically talking about internal representations, another one talking about memory.
Right.
That came out recently. A lot of people don't get this, that you've got different types of memory. You've got recognition memory, recall memory.
Yeah, okay.
So when you're understanding a language but you can't speak it, it's your recognition memory working.
Right.
You get into trying to speak, then your recall memory, and you actually have to find the idea. You have to find the sound that maps to the idea. You then have to produce that sound, and you have to do it in a way that is in a sentence, not just a word. And that takes a lot more mental processing. It's a different form of memory, which is why you have to be opening your mouth and saying stuff and go, oh, that's a fridge. Oh, that's a car. Yeah. So all these things that they give you as exercises in a textbook are not wrong, but you don't get it from a textbook.
Yeah.
You need to self-generate it like a kid does, playing with their toys. Oh, look at my red car.
Right.
Oh, my red car is faster than my blue car.
Yeah.
Right. So they're making this up and they're creating. This is the other point. Language is a creative process. It's not a memorization process.
同意.
But so many people push it though that it is. You have to do right. I need 70 characters a day or whatever. 50 characters a day. I need to memorize.
I'll just smash the
repetition
and motivation.
Okay, show me those people who do it this way who are fluent in their target language.
Okay, give me about 15 minutes. No.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Seriously, people who advocate that, if they could speak Mandarin better than you, Mandarin better than me, English better than you, then maybe they have a point.
Right.
I hated English before.
Yes, true.
Too much information, too much things that I was forced to learn.
That's the education system.
Okay. 所以那个完全没有用。
My TEDx talk, right? There are a lot of comments on YouTube, and you can break them into 3 types. There's the first type of, wow, I speak 5 languages. 3, I learned the way that Chris is talking about, and 2, I learned another way, like the traditional language learning way, and I'm really fluent in the first 3, and the other 2, I'm still crap.
Okay.
No, that's one. Second one is, wow, I never thought about it that way before. I'm going to go try. And there are people like one guy said, okay, I'm going to go and learn Italian. I don't speak a word of Italian, and I'll come back and report. And he came back 3 months later and posted again. He said, okay, I spent 3 months in Italy, and now I'm fluent. I can read and write and have conversations about really complex things. And yeah, this works. So that's the second lot. And then there's a third group of comments. This guy's full of shit. This is impossible. You cannot learn a language this fast, this way. And you can almost guarantee every single one of them is coming from the language learning industry.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Including language teachers. Look, language, you can't teach a language.
You're going to have to back that one up.
Okay, you cannot teach a language. You can be a conversation partner. You can be a language parent. You can provide the context for someone to learn a language. You can't actually teach anything to anybody. We can only ever learn. And I can't even do a bet with you on this because you're in control of your brain. I am not.
Yes, true. Right? I hope so.
If you believe you cannot learn,
then you won't.
And you've convinced yourself that it doesn't matter what I do as a teacher, it's not going to make a difference.
No, yeah. 同意.
Right? If you are in charge of your brain and you are exploring how to use it better, you're going to learn anything. And I can't stop you.
Yeah.
对啊.
Yeah, it's very true actually.
对啊，真的.
Yeah,
Go on.
No, I was going to say it's about motivation to learn. So if you're open to learning, you're passionate about learning, you're going to learn.
对啊.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's going to be at the speed of which you can commit to learning, I guess. And
exactly. So it always comes down to your personal responsibility, whether you're prepared to put in the hours, whether you're prepared to use your attention in the right way. Right? And if you're there saying, I'll never learn this, I'll never learn this, I'll never learn this, and you wrote learning, guess what? You are locking into your brain, I'll never learn this.
No, it's true.
Right? You're convincing yourself, and your subconscious mind is going, okay, I got it already. I'll not let you learn here.
对啊.
Right. So I believe in the potential of every human being to actually create magical results in life, and sometimes you have to get out of your own way.
当然. One more question.
非常同意.
One more question. Okay.
It's about you and your wife.
Yes.
So obviously you said your wife's English language ability was slim to none when you met. But what was your Zhongwen like?
跟现在一样.
It's pretty good. Oh, really? Interesting. So how did your relationship work in the early days in regards to language?
中文.
We spoke Chinese.
So, and in English, did she say to you, Chris, use English as much as possible with me? Talk English as much as possible?
I said no.
Okay.
为什么? 为什么?
Okay, 这个是非常重要。我最后我说我会给你创造一个产品能帮你学。Okay, I'll create a product so you can learn. Because what happens in a relationship, if you have a relationship at an adult level in one language, and one of the partners is 0 in the other language, you have a massive power distance.
Okay. If they know nothing of the
语言的隔阂吗?
Yeah. So one partner is still an adult in the other language, in their mother tongue, but the other person is a baby. And so, and there's also a tendency in couples for the teacher to be very demanding and expect the learner to get good really fast and not be prepared to have baby level interactions with them.
Right.
所以是沟通的问题.
It's more about the relationship. You change the dynamic of the relationship.
Oh.
So if you're both sort of the same level, so you speak a little bit of English, Ola and Tom speaks a little bit of Chinese, then maybe you can do a little bit of Chinese talking, a little bit of English talking, and you're both getting better.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to be same level. But if for instance, when you met, Tom was already fluent in Chinese and you didn't speak any English, then it's going to be easier for you to speak Chinese.
Yeah, because there'd be important situations where you have to convey.
When you get mad at them, you're going to use Chinese.
Yeah.
Right. So you tend to stay in the language that works for both of you to do life.
Right.
好难的问题哦。
It's great.
因为刚刚他讲到，就是如果你有一件事情，你需要有一个 argument， 你需要让对方知道你的心情、你的想法的时候，但是你又只能用你的第二外语，你有这样子的状况吗？ Do you have this situation before?
我自己，那当然，那我一直是用第二外语了吧，所以对我来说，这个是正常的，因为基本上我的中文跟我的英文是一样的。 我可以随便。如果我有朋友吧，他们是这样，他们要争吵的时候呢，互相不理解了，一个不会普通话，一个英文，算是小学那种水平的嘛，所以稍微复杂一点的概念是没法沟通，
对
啊，所以他们是比较困难的。Yeah, it can be really tough having two people with a language gap living closely together. It does make things complicated.
对啊，因为骂人的时候要用母语骂比较爽。
Yeah, and as I said, unless you mentioned earlier, you're at a similar level where you can sort of get better together.
If you're similar level and you come up together, then yeah. But if there's already a gap,
especially that kind of gap, if one's nearly fluent, the other ones are just starting. You're
gonna default to the fluent language.
Of course, especially in times of crisis or whatever it is, you're going to default.
Yeah. You're going to default to the fluent language. So
you went with Zhongwen in your relationship. You went with Zhongwen in your relationship until she became, and now still Zhongwen? Or
now we switch.
Yeah, to Chinglish now.
Yeah, but so either English or Mandarin, not together. Not mixing the two. I actually don't like mixing the two.
We're gonna have a fight.
You can switch in order to clarify a meaning, but to be switching all the time tends to degrade both languages.
Interesting.
我们自己是觉得 Chinglish 对我们来说是最有用的。
Yeah.
对吧？
Yeah.
在理解能力上，至少你可以就是边学边了解我在说什么。
Yeah, that's the important thing.
对。
是，但是这个我的意思是，你可以有3分钟中文，3分钟英文。但是你说一句话，你把中英混合，这个有问题。马来西亚有这个问题了。
It's just like 4 languages though in Malaysia, isn't it? Something?
Yeah, but what happens is they will speak with 3 languages all the time in all mixed up in one sentence. And the result is they don't know
what they're saying
words in the other language.
Yeah. Okay.
了解。
So they'll be using English words. They don't know the Chinese.
Right.
They'll then use Chinese words. They don't know the English word for it. So they actually end up in a situation where they have a truncated vocabulary in both languages.
Yeah.
All right. So that's a bit of a problem. So my view is you stay in Chinese and then you can go in English and you stay in English. And you can maybe be talking English for several hours and then Chinese for several hours. If there's misunderstanding, of course you can help each other by clarifying the meaning and translating. That's not an issue.
Yeah.
Do you think there's usefulness, there's power in sorry, this is another question. Again, we could talk for ages on this. Let's let him go.
对啊。
No. You ask the question. Come on, and then we can close.
So, no, do you think there's power in forcing yourself to have conversations in your target language when it's difficult? So, yes. if you have a basic level understanding of whatever your language, Zhongwen, let's say, and you want to express yourself to your partner or whatever it is, forcing yourself to try and get that meaning across without switching back to your mother tongue. You think there's use in there somewhere?
Yeah, you absolutely have to do that.
Yeah.
What sport do you like?
Boxing.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So you like speedball?
Speedball? Oh, you mean the exercise? Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you hit it and then you're missing it, do you give up or do you come back and you keep trying?
Try again.
Okay. You got to keep going.
Yeah.
You got to challenge yourself at your edge.
Yeah. Right.
That's the only way you're going to improve.
Got to push yourself past it. I agree.
Yeah. You don't go for something that's many levels beyond where you are because you can't do anything, but you need to push yourself at the edge, always at the edge. So if you're swimming, for instance, right, you do 200 meters and then the next day you do 200 meters at speed.
Yep.
And you try and improve your time by a few seconds, and then you go to 400 meters.
Yep.
Right?
慢慢的，一点一点的。
Yeah. You keep pushing yourself to your best edge, and you keep seeing yourself improve against your baseline and your last time, And that's enough to keep you motivated.
Yeah, it gives you confidence every time, right? You think, yesterday I didn't know that, but today.
我觉得是衔接啦，就是衔接的意思是说 the way you connect the level， 就是你不能一下子我要你在这边，我在这边，我要一下子就 boom 上去，我觉得这是很难的，就是你要慢慢的一点一点一点，慢慢的
This is what everyone wants, is this
爬上去
instant gratification.
对，很多人就说，你怎么一步登天？
不可能，没有人是一步登天。
对，没有人一步登天，但是有外边的人都觉得你一步登天了，
因为他们没有看到这中间的过程。
那个答案是，
对，
我练了30年庆功。
这是真的吗？
That's a beyu. If you go to English, overnight success.
Yeah, you didn't see the tech.
Yeah, I worked overnight for 30 years.
Yeah.
对啊，
That's very good.
中文也有一句话，就是台上1分钟，台下10年功。就是你准备了一个 1-minute speech on the stage, but I spent 10 years practicing it.
Exactly.
没有人会看到你后面的努力的练习。
It's the iceberg thing, isn't it?
对
That's the iceberg thing.
Yeah.
没错。
Right. Chris, go.
我学到了好多。
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to have you. Very, very interesting. Could talk for hours. It's one of those things, right? You can, if you stick on just for a couple of minutes, Chris, just afterwards, we'll thank you very much. But Chris, thank you very much. Guys, do check out Rhythmic Mandarin online. And also, if you are learning English, Kung Fu English as well, right?
Exactly. 功夫英语。用简体来搜索啊。
用简体you simplify to search 功夫功夫英语。好，我们会把它打在那个 description 下面，大家可以去看。好，谢谢 Chris 老师，谢谢你带给我们这么精彩的一个分享，谢谢你。那如果你们有问题的话呢，可以写信到 chat@mandarinmonkey.com， 我们也会尽快的回复你们哦。
Everything else you need to know, www.mandarinmonkey.com. Go get it.
对啊，好 ，and the last thing I want to say, if you have a Chinese speaking partner, get them to speak to you.
Yes.
我们下次见，拜拜。
Bye.